In 2013, something strange appeared in the sky. Not a bird, not a plane, but a balloon from Google. This was Project Loon, a bold promise internet for everyone, everywhere. Imagine a world where no one was offline, a farmer in a remote village checking crop prices, a student in the mountains accessing a world-class library. These weren't ordinary balloons, they were high-tech marvels, drifting in the stratosphere, powered by the sun. For years they floated above us, bringing internet to places that had never known it, helping after disasters, and inspiring millions. Project Loon became a symbol of technology's power to solve big problems. It felt like the future had arrived, delivered by a silent fleet in the sky. Then, just as quietly, it ended. In early 2021, Google announced Project Loon was shutting down. The balloons would come down, the project was over. No big farewell, no grand explanation, it just vanished. One day, the promise of a connected world floated above us. The next, it was gone. The silence left a single question: why? Why would a project with so much potential, already changing lives, simply disappear? The story of Project Loon is a modern mystery, a tale of innovation and sudden retreat. Was it just business, or was there more behind the scenes? The quiet disappearance of these high-flying balloons raises questions about power, control, and the fate of brilliant ideas. Sometimes, the most promising dreams vanish before we hear their full story. The ghost in the sky had a story to tell, but it fell silent. What really happened to Project Loon? Let's find out. Project Loon was born in Google X, the company's secret lab for wild ideas. The goal: use high-altitude balloons to deliver internet to the world's remotest places. Each balloon, the size of a tennis court, floated 20 kilometers above Earth, carrying solar-powered electronics and antennas. Using AI, the balloons rode stratospheric winds, forming a mesh network in the sky. Signals bounced from ground stations to balloons, then across the sky, finally reaching users' phones as if from a normal cell tower. This wasn't just theory, it worked. After Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico in 2017, Project Loon restored emergency internet to tens of thousands. Families reconnected, first responders coordinated, and hope returned. Project Loon proved technology could help people when they needed it most. It was a glimpse of a world where no one was left offline. The dream was real, if only for a moment. But why didn't it last? Project Loon offered a radical solution to an old problem: connecting the unconnected. Traditional networks required expensive cables and towers, leaving rural and remote areas behind. Loon flipped the script: cheaper, faster, and able to reach anywhere. Experts saw it as a way to close the digital divide, giving everyone access to education, markets, and opportunity. The UN calls internet access a human right. Loon seemed the best tool to make that real. The engineering was groundbreaking. Balloons surviving harsh stratospheric conditions, navigating autonomously, powered by the sun. Innovations from Loon could help in disaster response and beyond. Most importantly, it was hope, a tech giant using its power for good. When Loon brought service to Peru after an earthquake, or to rural Kenya, it was more than a test, it was a promise. That's why its end felt like a broken promise. It wasn't just a project that ended, it was a vision lost. But was it really just about money? The end came suddenly. In January 2021, Google X's Astro Teller announced Loon was shutting down. The official reason? It was too expensive to be sustainable. Google offered a $10 million fund for Kenyan connectivity, but it felt small compared to the dream being abandoned. The balloons were brought down, the network dismantled, but for many the story didn't add up. Loon had just launched commercial service in Kenya, and proven itself in disasters. Insiders whispered, was it really just about money? Some suspected more complex reasons: pressure, politics, or hidden agendas. The lack of detail and the swift shutdown fueled rumors. The mystery shifted from how Loon worked to why it stopped. The questions were just beginning. One theory blames the powerful telecom industry. Companies like AT&T and Vodafone have spent billions building networks and controlling who gets online. Project Loon threatened their business, offering cheap, flexible internet from the sky. If Loon succeeded, it could have upended the telecom giant's profits and power. These companies have enormous influence, lobbying governments and regulators. They could have created regulatory hurdles, making it hard for Loon to operate. Maybe the business wasn't viable because powerful competitors made sure it wouldn't be. The giants on the ground may have been too strong for the ghost in the sky. It's a classic story. Old powers protecting their turf from a new idea. Was Loon quietly crushed by the industry it threatened, or was there another reason? Another theory centers on governments and their fear of losing control. Imagine foreign-controlled balloons floating above your country, beaming internet, and possibly collecting data. Governments, protective of their airspace and communications, saw a threat. A tool for connection could also be a tool for surveillance. Authoritarian and democratic nations alike worried about security and privacy. Project Loon could bypass local regulations, giving Google unprecedented access. Fears of espionage and technological colonialism grew. Permission to operate became tangled in politics and suspicion. The dream of a borderless network collided with the reality of national borders. Maybe Loon didn't fail because of money, but because the world wasn't ready to trust it. The eyes in the clouds were seen as too watchful. A final theory looks at Google's own strategy. Maybe Loon was never meant to last. It was a stepping stone to satellite internet. As Loon ended, projects like SpaceX's Starlink were rising, promising global internet from space. Google learned from Loon mesh networks, antennas, software, all useful for satellites. Balloons were clever, but satellites are more durable and scalable. Perhaps Google quietly pivoted, moving its talent and tech to the next frontier. In this version, Loon didn't fail. It completed its mission as a research phase. The story of Loon is a lesson. Great ideas face money, politics, and competition. Whether killed by telecoms, feared by governments, or outgrown by its creators, Loon's disappearance leaves a void. It was a beautiful dream of a connected planet. The balloons are gone, but the questions remain. What other world-changing ideas have vanished before we ever knew they existed?